All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got my man Miguel here from ToyQuest 101. Miguel, I want you to introduce yourself, man. Tell the listeners and tell all the people a little bit about yourself, bro.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you for having me. My name is Miguel. I'm from ToyQuest 101. ToyQuest 101 is a YouTube show, a pop culture review channel that inspires kids with autism and special needs. Aside from that, I'm in mixed martial arts for about 15 years with my boy Johnny. I love everything that has to do with mixed martial arts, so I appreciate you guys having me here.
Absolutely,
Dope.
bro. Yeah, man.
Welcome to the Phantom Punch podcast, man.
Yeah, welcome to the
Thank
Phantom
you.
Punch podcast. Welcome. We about to hold your feet to the fire a little bit. You already know we've been talking trash for the last 3 weeks, back and forth, I think. But yeah, bro. I mean, besides being in mixed martial arts, so you train MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a little bit of everything, right?
A little bit of everything: boxing, judo, MMA, jiu-jitsu. I mean, you name it, Muay Thai. Been doing it for a while, man.
Yeah, so you well-rounded. So you're well-rounded enough. Let's have this conversation, man. I know you're a huge Jake Paul fan. You're the biggest Jake Paul fan.
let the record show I hate Jake Paul, all right? But yesterday's event, all right, was a day that will be cemented in the walls of any boxing organization. The name Jake Paul is going to be echoed for generations to come, and his name is cemented in the world of boxing. It's like, I'm kidding. Fuck that guy. I hate that guy. I hate that guy.
All right, man. So tell me what you saw, I guess, because you had money. You put money on Jake Paul, right?
No, I didn't put any money on Jake Paul. I didn't do anything, right? So this is my thing. From an MMA point of view, right? I'm looking at Ben Askren. Ben Askren has had a wonderful, amazing career in MMA. But he's never used his hands. He's a wrestler. He's a ground and pound guy. He's probably the best pick for Jake Paul to fight in a boxing match, right? So all these guys, and everybody's like, "Oh, Miguel, how are you not, riding with the MMA guy?" Well, just because I like Ben Askren doesn't mean he's gonna win in a boxing match. And if you look at Jake Paul, as much as I hate the guy, right? He's not that bad. He's training. He's young and he's strong. All right. Yeah, he's a YouTube celebrity, right? But styles make fights. You heard that saying,
right? Yeah, that's a saying in the sport, man.
I told everybody, I called it. I called the second round. He did it in one. Now, for those who were like, "Oh, the fight was fixed," man, if you knew the fight was fixed, then you shouldn't be mad that Jake Paul won, because regardless of the fight ending the way it did, if it went to a decision, they weren't going to make Jake Paul lose. So if you were a betting person, you should have betted on Jake Paul regardless of what the odds were, because they weren't going to let Jake Paul lose. And Ben Askren isn't the guy to knock Jake Paul out. Not even this little bit. Not even close. Not even a little bit.
So tell me more about Ben Askren, bro, because I don't know shit about him. We've talked about it on the podcast. We're both boxing fans, hardcore boxing fans. We can talk boxing all day, every day, but I don't know shit other than what I've heard as it's come out in the past, couple weeks or months or whatever leading up to the fight.
Right.
So he's pure wrestler, right? That's what we should have expected.
So listen, so MMA is obviously mixed martial arts, right? And when you look at fighters in MMA, you have your certain style that some of these fighters really cater to, right? So Ben Askren was that wrestling guy, right? That ground and pound guy. He's going to maul you to death, sort of like Khabib, except Khabib has some hands, right? But in all the fights, if you look back and you Google Ben Askren's fights, whether it was overseas in that organization or whether it's in the UFC, whatever the case is, it's all about him taking his opponent down and just mauling him. And what I mean by that is, when a guy has that person on the ground, he's not letting him up. There's no chance for that guy to throw hands with Ben Askren because he didn't need to. I'll give you the perfect example. Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey dominated her career by judo throwing somebody and putting them in an armbar. That was her bread and butter. But when she went up against somebody who defended that and had hands, or in that case, had kickboxing, right? Because she went against Holly Holmes, she lost.
Holly Holmes was a boxer. I'm just going to let that
correct.
be known.
Yeah,
Correct.
see, that's what I feel as though is this. It's all different languages. It's different languages, and I feel like a person like Jake Paul, starting from scratch, can become a better boxer, maybe faster, than a person that already has a background in other fighting techniques and styles. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like there's certain things that you do in other styles that you just don't do in boxing. You know what I mean? And those things can be a bad habit in the ring as opposed to being in the octagon. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like when you coming from scratch, you learn it like he's learning, and we see a little bit of improvement in him. You know what I mean? Even the way he knocked him out last night, it was clean. It was a decent one too. It was nice. You know what I'm saying? Like he did, it was nice.
I can't give you no credit, bro. I'm sorry. I keep trying.
I mean, it's not credit. I'm just respecting it. You know what I mean?
I feel you. I do agree with that. That's a good point that you
he's
made,
developing. He's developing.
He's developing. My point is all right. So everybody here has been involved in the sport. You know what I mean? We've all been around pros. We've been around high level amateurs, kids coming up. Where I take issue with all of this is this kid is greener than 90% of amateurs in any gym, MMA,
True.
boxing, Muay Thai, anything. He's greener than 90% of them. You and I and everybody here knows I can ramble off 5 names that no one will know, but we all know could get the job done against a Jake Paul.
True.
Oh, I agree.
My issue with this is, and my biggest issue with all of it is just that he's bypassing. He's going from being last in line and all just skipping
Not even in line.
Yeah, not even in line, and he's skipping all the way to the front, and that's where I take problem with it. And he's not. Listen, I try to give him credit, but we're giving credit. Listen, you can only polish a turd so much, but it's still a fucking turd. Right?
Right.
You know what I mean?
True.
But where I take issue with it is, and what you sent me yesterday, that picture. So there's some memes, I guess, floating around on the internet with Jake LaMotta throwing this leaping right hand and comparing it to the Jake Paul leaping left hand that landed on Ben Askren and put Ben Askren out yesterday. Fam, listen.
Virtually identical.
Come on, man.
It's crazy.
You can't listen. We're not calling Jake LaMotta a Jake Paul Jake LaMotta and vice versa.
We're not. We're 100% not.
We can't do that, bro. But I will say, like everyone has said, yes, he showed improvement and all that stuff, but he finds himself, and I keep saying this. I've said it in conversation. I've said it on the podcast. Listen, he fought Ben Askren, right? Mm-hmm. Who's paying to watch him fight another YouTuber or another celebrity? There's no going back. You can't go backwards now.
No, you can't. So he pretty much put himself in a predicament because now he's got to go up. And we talked about this a little bit. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we're all creating a monster, right? Because whether you like him or whether you don't like him, you're still going to tune in because you want to see if he's going to get knocked out or he's going to keep going up the way he's been going up, right? I mean, that's the whole point of the YouTube life and the whole social media life. Right. He's going to do whatever it takes to get views, right? But at the end of the day, whoever he fights next, and I'm calling it, he's going to have to fight Dylan Dallas. Dylan Dallas is another Ben Askren, and I believe that Jake Paul will beat him too. All right?
So another punching bag is what you're saying.
Pretty much, yeah.
Sounds like it to me.
All right, so I got to ask a question then. So being as though you know me from boxing, and being as though Apollo is co-signed with me with boxing, you know me. We've been in the ring together, you and I, training together and all of that. So I'm not speaking for MMA. He's trashing MMA fighters, bro. What is good? How do you feel about that with you with the sport that you hold dearest to your heart? Like, how does that translate to you, man? Because personally, if that was,
you saying Jake Paul beats any MMA fighter?
That's a negative, Ghost Rider. That's a big negative.
Is that what you're saying?
No, but I'm gonna answer that question because I'm glad you asked that question because that is a valid and great question. I'm gonna tell you this: was Ben Askren a choice of mine to represent the MMA community? Hell no. I can name a bunch of different MMA fighters like Eddie Alvarez, who's been in talks about going into that organization. We'll talk about that a little later. But that I know have hands. All right. We're talking about MMA fighters who are known for their hands, not for their ground and pound or wrestling or jiu-jitsu, right? But I will tell you this. I'm happy this happened for Ben Askren because at the end of the day, even though he lost, he really won because he made a $500,000 payday. Yep. That's more than any amount that he's ever gotten paid in his very successful career in MMA, whether it was overseas or here in the UFC. That man has never made that much money. So although it was a sad day for MMA. And although that was a circus, right? My man got paid, and you can't tell me anyone. I'll do that shit for half the price. All right. I don't care. All right. But at the end of the day, a real story, he got paid a lot of money, right? And you're going to see, I'm telling you right now, you're going to see a lot of MMA fighters and a lot of different celebrities going into this because they're getting paid. All right. You saw Frank Mir on the undercard. I thought that was not that great. I thought that was like a sparring match, honestly. Yeah. But I did see that Holyfield got signed to fight the Giant, right? So I'm glad about that. Listen, this is my thing when it comes to that entire circus, right? Everybody's like, well, do you like this? Yeah, I like it. You don't know why? Because I'm seeing people who I used to watch growing up have a last go at it. And whether it makes for good TV or not, it's good to see Mike Tyson in there against Roy Jones or whoever it is that's going in there like Holyfield. Right. And not for nothing, Apollo, I know you're into music. You're telling me you didn't like Snoop Dogg up there with Ice Cube?
No, right? I didn't. No, I didn't like that.
You crazy. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
That works for every other thing. Hip hop being implemented, it works for selling McDonald's. It works for selling you your cable company. It works for everything. It doesn't work for boxing. For me, personally, it was too much of a distraction from the sweet science, which we are here for. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I personally didn't enjoy that, and we talked about that last night. I would not, the way they commentated and the way they carried on throughout the night. I can't deal with that in a Teofimo fight. Like that can't be happening. That can't be going on while we got belts on the line, real belts on the line, and a real fight happening. You can't be back.
Yeah, but you're comparing boxing and the culture behind boxing, well, what we know to boxing to what this production is throwing. Because not for nothing, listen, you might not like it, but at the end of the day, I didn't like a lot of things that were going on, right? Justin Bieber forgot he had a second song. Some girl was on there talking about hot Cheetos on a pizza. I was like, what the heck, right? But when it turned to Ric Flair refereeing a slap match, right? Man, I was all in. Bro, I was all in.
It is, and there's no better word to describe it than what we all witnessed last night was an absolute circus. It just felt like it was a circus, and leading the circus.
Boxing's version of the BET Awards. That's what that was,
bro. Listen, all I'm saying, not to get too knee deep in the Triller, because we're going to discuss all of that later. But with that being said, I refuse to believe in Jake Paul. I refuse to co-sign Jake Paul. And listen, I hate to say it, and no disrespect to MMA fighters. I've said it before. I've trained with, that I've trained with like a lot of guys that are here in South Jersey, here in Philly. A lot of the MMA community I have love for. That being said, if he keeps beating up on MMA fighters, what does that mean for like, all right, so it continues to make it look bad to me. It makes the sport a mockery, more of that sport, more of MMA. And then for me, it just molds it all into boxing because they're fighting boxing rules in a boxing ring with boxing gloves. So then people start to mold it and have the conversation. Like the comments I've seen on Twitter, Instagram, everything are nuts right now. Oh, he could beat Triple G. He could smoke Conor McGregor.
That's a negative.
That's crazy.
But that's the thing though. Like the casual fan right now sees this dude as the savior of the sport. Meanwhile, like there's guys like Raymond Ford from Camden, one of our very local guys who's on the come up. He just got to 8 rounds. Like he just started fighting 8 rounds, and he's coming up through the ranks.
The ticket was not $600,000 either.
Right, he's not getting paid what Jake Paul's getting paid. So I get it from a business perspective, and I get it from like there's money to be made, but at some point you got to ask the question: is it good for the sport, or is it just making it a mockery?
Now wait, I'm gonna defend MMA because I kind of agree with you, and I kind of don't agree with you. But what happened when James Toney went over to the UFC and met Randy Couture?
Exactly.
There were some boxers that went over to the UFC and they didn't have the same outcome. There was a couple more, but
James Toney and if you want to, Holly Holm was a WBC champion before she went there, and look at her. That's all I'm saying.
She's good. And then now, what's her name? The
Clarissa's
girl,
on her
Clarissa.
way.
Clarissa, yes, but she's She's good. But at the end of the day, listen, it's two different sports. You could compare them all day, right? But I would have never picked Ben Askren to represent MMA. All right. And nothing against him. I love Ben Askren. I think he's a funny dude. I think he looks like somebody's uncle just getting in there, right, to fight. But at the end of the day, I would never pick him. And Jake Paul and whoever their managers are smart because they're not going to pick somebody like Mayweather or somebody in the UFC like Conor McGregor to fight him because he knows
they might pick Mayweather. I wouldn't put that past them.
There's discussion about Floyd fighting his brother.
His brother.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even going to bother to.
It's a straight money play.
I can't even dignify that conversation. But with that being said, all right? So let's say Dylan Dennis is next. He fights Dylan Dennis. Let's say he wins. Jake Paul wins. What after that? Listen, let me tell you this. And again, I don't mean to shit on MMA. I promise this is going to come off as me shitting on MMA. But I promise you, you can put the most washed up fighter in with him. Listen, Ivan Redkach embarrassed himself last night. I would still bet on Ivan Redkach against Jake Paul. I would bet on a boxer who's been boxing for however long, longer than him.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right, so let's say he beats Dylan Dennis. Who's next from MMA? Because he's clearly not picking a boxer.
Well, this is the thing, right? So there you have some MMA fighters who absolutely hate us. I'll give you an example. Sean Brady. Sean Brady absolutely hates Jake Paul. I've seen him on social media doing it. And I don't think if they paid, Sean to do it, he won't do it because of the mere fact that this is stupid, right?
Right.
But you're going to have some fighters like Ben Askren who are towards the end of their career or somebody who wants to make a payday that's going to see this happening like it has been, and they're going to jump the ship. I'm telling you right now. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know it might have not. We'll wait. I'm waiting for Dana White's reaction. Dana White's upset. I guarantee you he's upset. All right. So something's going to happen where somebody good, and I know there's talks with Eddie Alvarez because he was on Ariel Helwani's show, and Oscar De La Hoya reached out to him, and they want to try to get a match together, and he said it was real serious. But Eddie Alvarez has hands. All right. He has hands, and you know him. He's from out here. He's from Philly, right?
He's from Philly.
So you know him, but it's all going to depend on who, comes out of MMA. I mean, listen, a lot of MMA fighters are in bare knuckle fighting, and they're doing a really good job. Chris Lieben, there's a bunch of them, right? So it's all going to depend. But Dylan Dennis is you're going to get the same exact situation and the same exact result. I could promise you that. And I wasn't riding Jake Paul because I like Jake Paul. I was riding it on the mere fact that styles makes fights, and Ben Askren was the wrong person to pick. He was just there at the right time, and he's the right opponent for Jake Paul to make a payday on and a name for himself.
Right.
That's all. That's all.
It's just mind-boggling to me.
Ringling Brothers.
Ringling. Yeah.
Barnum and Bailey.
Ringling. All right, so I do have another question for you. Outside of Jake Paul and all, I mean, it still has to do with him, I guess. So during they were wrapping gloves last night. I had an opportunity just to go through like social media, and ESPN posted, I don't know, somebody posted it, where they were talking about what was happening in the locker rooms, and Tyrone Woodley, right? That's his name, Tyrone Woodley. He was in Ben Askren's corner, and Jay Leon Love I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jay Leon's a former WBO world champion, whatever. They're similar weight classes, but they were yip-yapping back and forth at each other because Jay Leon, was talking shit about, Ben Askren, and he was holding Jake Paul's gloves, and he was like, you don't know nothing about these. You don't know nothing about these. So do we think that there is going to be more crossover? Are we talking about actual boxers versus actual MMA fighters in actual boxing? Like Tyrone Woodley, Jay Leon Love, Frank Mir, and Steve Cunningham were like, they're older, they're both past their prime. Do you think we're going to start to see that more and more? I mean,
I don't like it, man. I don't like it. It's like you're familiar with Smack DVD, right? You familiar with Smack, the rap battle league? It's like putting them on American Idol. What are we doing? It's two different things.
That's really good.
We're not here for that. You know what I'm saying? I don't like it, man. The cross contamination is no bueno for me.
So if they have if it's their own thing on Triller, Do you think there's legs? And then, do you think there's legs to this? And then give me some examples. Give me some ideas. Give me like Tyrone Woodley versus Jalen Love. I wanted to see it because I'm familiar with both of them.
Right. So this is the thing. The common factor here, Tyrone Woodley just lost his last fight in the UFC. I can't even remember if he got cut or not, but he's towards the tail end of his career, right? He just did some movie he was in on Netflix, horrible. He tries to rap, horrible, right? This is perfect for Tyrone Woodley right now to start something in an organization that's making money. If he's looking at Ben Askren, Uncle Ben Askren just made $500,000 in less than a minute. He's going to jump that. He's going to jump on that.
Who would?
I would.
Who would?
Right? And I'm going to tell you what else. I might be showing my age. Who remembers Celebrity Deathmatch on MTV?
Absolutely. Yep. Love that show.
This is it in real life, bro. This is it in real life.
That's what it's got the potential to be, for sure.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a ridiculous reference, but now that you mention it, I mean, I feel like we're quickly approaching that. That's a good point.
Yeah,
oh my God.
It is.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, honestly, I was just curious to get your opinion on it. I know that we wanted to talk and we were gonna chop it up about this. You're betting the house on Jake Paul in theory against maybe a few more opponents in MMA, maybe Dylan Dennis, and then whoever
unless like Justin Bieber gets in there or something.
I did mean to actually bring up the fact that I saw Jake Paul tweet this morning at Nick or Nate. I forget. Nick or Nate Diaz, one or the other, calling one of them out. Give me some thoughts on that, because I know that Nate, I'm familiar with Nate Diaz and his career and the Diaz brothers, the whole aura around them. But if he's calling one of them out, does he have a chance?
Yeah, I think so. Them boys got hands, and they're straight street. They got hands. They got hands. But listen, you got to remember this too. All right, so there's a big difference between Ben Askren and the Diaz brothers when you talk about styles, right? But at the end of the day, Jake Paul has been training in boxing this entire time. So, but I don't know who I would pick in that scenario, right? I mean, I'm going to probably go with my boys, the Diaz brothers, because I know they got hands. I know they're crazy enough to do it, and they have enough power and technique to probably go in there and either last the entire fight or do some damage and probably finish Jake Paul. But at the end of the day, Jake Paul's been training in this, and he's a big boy, and you got to give him some credit. He's not that bad for being some YouTuber that just came up to fight. I mean, you're showing even look, when you compare his training videos with Ben Askren's hitting pads or hitting the bag looks awful compared to Jake Paul doing it. And I'm not saying he's the most skilled fighter. I'm not saying he's even a boxer, bro. I'm just saying it's just like jiu-jitsu, right?
The blank canvas,
I get a guy who's doing jiu-jitsu for 6 months, I guarantee he will wipe the floor with anybody who hasn't.
Right.
But the Diaz brothers, if he goes in there, that's more of a well put together match than it was for him against Ben Askren. That's all I'm saying. And I hate Jake Paul. I'm just gonna keep saying it. I don't like him. I don't. He's whack.
Do you believe in Jake Paul's power?
But he's smart.
Do you believe in the power that was there? Or is it just Ben Askren's chin?
That's a good question. I think it's a little bit of both. No, you know what? Listen, Ben Askren has taken punches from a lot of people. Robbie Lawler was the last one, right? I mean, but you got to remember, too, his last fight in the UFC, he got the Masvidal knee. After you get hit like that, sometimes you don't come back with that chin the way you do, right? You've seen it in boxing where somebody gets knocked down and they're not the same again after a certain amount of time. So I don't know if that took, some type of work here that happened. But I don't think Ben Askren's chin is the best, but he's taken some really big punches from really powerful MMA fighters in the organizations that he's been. So I do believe Jake Paul has some sort of power. I mean, you heard it in the pop, you heard it in the video, you saw it. It connected.
It was a good shot.
It was a good shot. It was a good shot. As much as I hate to admit it, was a good shot. And listen, that Jake LaMotta reference, you can't deny it looked identical.
Yo, I can't give you that. I still refuse to give it to him. I still refuse.
That's the definition of a puncher's chance. Everybody has it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, listen, at the end of the day, the kid has gotten us talking and millions and millions of people talking. I mean, like I said, the comment section looks nasty right now when they're comparing him to some of the greatest fighters of all time. Personally, I don't believe in him. I don't think he beats a boxer. I do want to.
He doesn't, but they're never going to put him against a boxer. Who are they going to put him against? Listen, let's do this right now. At what point in Jake Paul's career and what fight are they actually going to put him up against a decent boxer? Or not even a decent, but just a boxer that somebody knows their name. At what point? He went up against a YouTube star, he went up against the NBA dude, and now he went against Ben Askren. So out of those three, Ben Askren probably had the best chance, right? But it's still not anybody worth saying, all right, Jake Paul's the truth right now. It's not. The only thing is that he knows what he's doing, he's making money, and he's winning. That's it.
Did you buy the fight?
No, man, I legally streamed that like crazy.
All right, I was just making sure, bro. I wanted to make sure you wasn't spending your money on that.
No.
Well, man, Miguel, we appreciate your time, man, and absolutely love you coming on here. We're definitely gonna have you come back in. Also, I want to get. I do have one more question for you. How do you feel about the fact that? Because I ended up watching the Robert Whitaker, right? That's his name.
Whitaker?
I watched the rest. I watched that main event last night on UFC, and great fight, great fighter. But they put up the purse difference that Ben Askren made fighting Jake Paul, and it was like you said. I think it was like $500,000, and Robert Whitaker was not even half of that.
Not even half, and that's the shame of it, right? So if I want to be embarrassed for MMA, that's where I'm going to be embarrassed at. Not the fact that Ben Askren came over, got beat up by a YouTube star, and made $500,000. Where I'm going to be embarrassed for my MMA community is not the fighters that are doing this. It's the fact that you got fighters like Robert Whitaker, like Kevin Gastelum, like all these fighters in there now, except maybe Conor McGregor, except Khabib, and some of the few high-end fighters that are making crap, right? The average MMA fighter who goes into the UFC, their starting salary for the fight, I believe, and don't quote me on this, is between 6 to maybe 12 grand without any fight bonuses or fight wins or anything like that. It's not a lot of money. And you got to realize you got to pay for your coaches, which you probably most likely have 3, your training camp, your travel is paid for, but when you're out there, you're eating, right? There's a lot of things that go into any training camp, whether it's boxing or UFC or any other sport, and they're getting paid a little bit of money. And that's just how the sport has been. And that's why there's been a lot of controversies about fighter unions and all that. But that's exactly why you're going to see more MMA fighters do this crossover into boxing and this circus that we're talking about. It's just a recipe that they know and they're taking advantage of. And it's been working, whether we like it or not. That's how it comes down to. And I hate that I just said that.
So do I. I have a feeling we're going to be back to discuss this, my friend. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Miguel from ToyQuest 101. Miguel, where can everybody check out ToyQuest 101, man? Hey,
listen, I know this is a boxing podcast, by the way. I love it. You know, it's great talk all the time, you know, with Apollo and Johnny. But, you know, like I said, my show is with my daughter. She's 13. She has autism. You know, we try to inspire kids with autism and special needs to be on YouTube, right? Because they might think that their disability might be a roadblock to accomplishing their dreams. But we review all pop culture related things, Batman, Superman, Marvel, Disney, you name it. We have celebrities come on to the show all the time. It's just a good way to support. If you guys want to give us a follow, give us a follow. I'm sure there's going to be one video that you're going to be like, oh, that's cool. But we have some really cool and interesting things on our show that you guys might like. We've had UFC fighters on the show. We've had boxers on the show. So we do have all kinds of celebrities come on to the show. We talk about their career and things that make an impact in the world today. So it'd be nice for you guys to follow. And again, I appreciate being on this podcast. I'm a huge fan from day one. Apollo, Johnny, you guys are the best. So thank you.
All right, brother. We appreciate you, man. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll catch up with you soon. All right.
Hey, man. No problem.
All right, brother. Peace.
All right, man.